Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. 90-Day Fiancé. Jenny leaves, Sumit and parents say she looks old. 90-Day Fiancé spin-off show. 90-Day Bears all caught a hurt Jenny storming out on Sumit after he agreed with his parents that she looked old. It seems that the show lived up to its title Sunday night when Sumit bared all about Jenny. Jenny and Sumit are in love, but the age difference became a roadblock early on for both Sumit and his parents. Jenny is 61 and Sumit is 32, and you can see the difference in their ages by just looking at them. But that never bothered the 90-Day Fiancé American woman, Jenny. She thought it didn't bother her 90-Day Fiancé guy either, but apparently it does. Sumit was caught between two worlds on Sunday night's show. His devotion to his parents in one world and his devotion to Jenny in the other. Sumit's mother and father, who never wanted him to end up with Jenny, fought hard for Sumit to break it off with her. His mom was so distraught over her son's choice of an older woman that she threatened suicide if Sumit married Jenny. At the time, it looked as if Sumit wasn't going to take any chances. He popped out the promise ring instead of an engagement ring to Jenny. Maybe he thought he was keeping his mom alive by doing this. Sean Robinson interviewed Sumit and Jenny along with his parents virtually on 90 Days Bears All. Jenny seemed embarrassed and hurt over what she heard from Sumit. But he felt caught in the crossfire between Jenny and his parents. His father shared that Sumit was stunned by how old Jenny looked when he first met her. Jenny asked Sumit if that was true. Sumit said on this 90-Day Fiancé spin-off that he would never tell Jenny that because it is hurtful. But because of his father, he had no choice. He couldn't lie and say no because he was shocked by how old she looked during their first meeting. The father said that Jenny is a good person, as is his son, but they expected a pretty wife for their son. I want to say something. She is very good. I agree. My son is also very good. We also expect the wife of Sumit should be good-looking, Anil said. Sumit was also shocked to see Jenny, the age of Jenny. Sumit, when he saw her first time, he was shocked. Jenny got up and walked right off the 90-Day Fiancé set. She was hurt and she refused to sit there and take the insults. Sumit said this was not a conversation he would have with Jenny, but it was his father who brought it up. When Jenny asked if he had really said that, he told her the truth. Yes, he had. Later, Sumit and Jenny talked it over. He said that she didn't expect him to say that to her on his own. It wouldn't be nice. He did tell Jenny that yes, her older looks shocked when first meeting her. But he wouldn't tell her that when first thinking this because he didn't want to hurt his 90-Day Fiancé partner. It seemed to shock Jenny that Sumit held on to this thought without any mention to her. But he continued to say it is a hurtful thing to say, so she couldn't expect him to say it. It was his dad's fault. He couldn't lie once his father spilled the beans. As Jenny packed her bags with a heavy heart, the quiet in her and Sumit's small Indian apartment was louder than ever. She took a deep breath, running her fingers over the worn, faded fabric of a shawl she'd left on the bed, as memories of her and Sumit flooded her mind. It had been a whirlwind few years, an unusual love story that defied the odds, cultural expectations, and sometimes reason itself. But this time, it felt different. This time, the weight felt permanent. The morning had started out with tension simmering beneath the surface, as it often did whenever Sumit's parents visited. Jenny had overheard yet another conversation that was becoming painfully familiar. Sumit's parents, Anil and Sana, sat across from him in the living room, and their voices, though lowered, carried through the thin walls. Jenny heard Sana's voice crack with exasperation as she said, "She's too old for you, Sumit. It's not just about us. It's about you, your future, and what's best for you." Sumit, caught as always between his love for Jenny and his desire to please his family, responded with a familiar blend of defensiveness and vulnerability. "But I love her, Mom. Why does age have to be such a big deal?" His mother sighed, exasperated. "It's not just about the number, Sumit. She looks old. People notice. Our neighbors whisper, our relatives make remarks. Don't you see how this will affect us all?" Jenny felt her chest tighten as she listened. No matter how many times she heard these words, each one was like a fresh wound. She had been through this before, her heart bruised and battered by the relentless judgment. She had tried, over and over again, to show Sumit's family that her love for him was pure, that she was committed. But in their eyes, it never seemed to be enough. After Sumit's parents left, Jenny confronted him. "Sumit, I can't keep doing this. I love you, but I'm not sure I can keep living in a place where I'm constantly reminded of how I'm viewed as a burden or a mistake. Your parents will never accept us." Sumit rubbed his temples, looking worn down. "Jenny, please, just give me some more time. They need to understand that you're the person who makes me happy." Jenny shook her head, her eyes filled with tears. "How much more time, Sumit? I'm not getting any younger, and honestly, I'm tired of being told that's a problem. I thought we could get past it, but your parents don't even see me as a person. I'm just a hurdle." In that moment, Jenny realized something that had been brewing for a long time. She was tired of feeling like she had to constantly prove her worth, tired of being in a place where love wasn't enough. She had left her home, her friends, and her familiar life behind to build a future with Sumit. But maybe this wasn't the path to happiness she had envisioned. With a resolute look, she said, "I need to go, Sumit. I need to find a place where I don't feel like an outsider. I deserve that much." Sumit's eyes widened with panic. "Jenny, please, don't do this. We can work it out. I'll talk to them again. They'll come around eventually." Jenny's heart ached at his desperation, but she knew that staying would mean losing herself. She had fought so hard to be with him, but at what cost? She couldn't keep diminishing herself just to fit into his world. The following day, as she gathered the last of her belongings, Sumit stood quietly by, a storm of emotions flickering across his face. His eyes were filled with sorrow, regret, and an unmistakable sense of loss. They stood there, silently absorbing the magnitude of what was happening. Jenny reached out and took his hand one last time. "Sumit, I want you to be happy too," she whispered. "Maybe one day we'll find a way to be together without all this judgment. But I can't keep holding on to that hope if it means losing my self-worth." Sumit's voice was choked with emotion. "I don't know what I'll do without you, Jenny. You've been my life." Jenny offered him a small, bittersweet smile. Maybe we were each other's worlds for a moment in time. But some love stories are just chapters, not the whole book. With one last lingering look, Jenny turned and left the apartment, leaving behind a piece of her heart. As she walked down the street, her steps felt lighter and heavier all at once. She was moving forward, yet leaving behind so much. For the first time in a long time, Jenny felt a sense of clarity. Her love for Sumit would always be part of her, a beautiful, messy chapter of her life. But now she was free to rediscover who she was outside of that love, outside of the judgments and criticisms that had plagued her. It was terrifying, but it was also exhilarating. Back in the apartment, Sumit stood alone, his mind racing with memories of their time together. He replayed moments of laughter, of intimacy, of shared dreams. Yet interwoven in those memories were the difficult, unyielding voices of his parents, the weight of their disapproval, the hurt in Jenny's eyes each time they belittled her. As he looked around the now empty space, Sumit felt a pang of emptiness, a sense of finality that was hard to bear. Jenny had been more than just his partner. She had been his confidant, his friend, his anchor. But he knew deep down that he couldn't blame her for leaving. He knew how much she had sacrificed to be with him, and he knew how hard it was to constantly face rejection. Hours later, as he sat alone in the quiet of their once shared home, Sumit picked up his phone and dialed his mother's number. When she answered, he found his voice steadier than it had been in a long time. "Mom," he began, "I just wanted to tell you something." Jenny left. She couldn't take it anymore. And honestly, I can't blame her. I love her, and I've lost her because I couldn't stand up to you and Dad. His mother's voice softened. "Sumit, we only want what's best for you." "I know you think you do," Sumit replied, a hint of anger in his voice. "But sometimes, what's best for me isn't what you think. Maybe you and Dad don't realize how much you've hurt her, or how much you've hurt me by not accepting the person I love." There was silence on the other end of the line, but Sumit didn't wait for a response. He hung up, feeling a bittersweet sense of closure. As the days passed, Sumit found himself reflecting on everything that had happened. He missed Jenny deeply, but he also felt a strange sense of empowerment. He had finally acknowledged the rift between his love for her and his parents' expectations. He knew it was time for him to decide what kind of life he wanted to lead and how he would stand up for his own happiness in the future. Meanwhile, Jenny began to rediscover her sense of self. She traveled, reconnected with old friends, and found joy in simple moments. Her heart still ached for Sumit, but she no longer felt weighed down by the judgment and scrutiny of a world that had never fully accepted her. Their love story might not have had the ending they once envisioned, but it left both of them forever changed. They had loved fiercely, defied expectations, and ultimately had to let go. And in that letting go, they found new beginnings that, while different, were every bit as valuable.